This is the third and final part of Chapter 7 on the prophetic devolution of the Greek Empire covered in Daniel 11. We will conclude Antiochus IV and his army's defeat at the hands of the Maccabees, and then proceed to the Hasmoneans, their descendants. Daniel 11:36-39. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any god, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a god whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange god, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. Antiochus introduced the worship of Roman Zeus, Jupiter Olympius to the Greeks, which his fathers had not known. Because of his father, Antiochus was held hostage in Rome for several years, and thus learned to admire Zeus. He tricked his older brother into taking his place as hostage, and then took the kingdom of Syria, which was rightfully his brother's, to rule. In Greece, Zeus watched over the famous Olympic Games, of which wrestling was a primary sport. All athletes performed in the nude. Gymnos means naked, hence the name gymnasium. Antiochus IV built a gymnasium in Jerusalem and forced the priests to strip and wrestle in his attempt to Hellenize the Jews. Zeus was known as Jupiter in Roman mythology. He was the king of the gods and led their warriors to victory. Daniel 11:40-45. And at the time of the end shall the king of the south push at him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots and with horsemen and with many ships. And he shall enter into the countries, and shall overflow and pass over. He shall enter also into the glorious land, and many countries shall be overthrown. But these shall escape out of his hand, even Edom and Moab, and the chief of the children of Ammon. He shall stretch forth his hand also on the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. But he shall have power over the treasures of gold and of silver, and over all the precious things of Egypt, and the Libyans and the Ethiopians shall be at his steps. But tidings out of the east and out of the north shall trouble him. Therefore he shall go forth with great fury to destroy and utterly to make away many. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. Edom, Moab, and Ammon were in league with Antiochus against the Jews. Antiochus had hired Libyan and Ethiopian mercenaries. Though he did not attack Egypt again, by his threats and show of power he plundered their treasures. Antiochus headed east to Susa, hoping to plunder there as well, but he met his end. 40,000 of his troops under the command of Lysias pitched their tents or tabernacles in Emmaus, halfway between Jerusalem and the Mediterranean Sea. Howbeit he nothing at all ceased from his bragging, but still was filled with pride, breathing out fire in his rage against the Jews, and commanding to haste the journey. But it came to pass that he fell down from his chariot, carried violently, so that, having a sore fall, all the members of his body were much pained. And thus he, that a little afore thought he might command the waves of the sea, so proud was he beyond the condition of man, and weigh the high mountains in a balance, was now cast on the ground, and carried in a horse litter, showing forth unto all the manifest power of God, so that the worms rose up out of the body of this wicked man, and whiles he lived in sorrow and pain, his flesh fell away, and the filthiness of his smell was noisome to all his army. And the man that thought a little afore he could reach to the stars of heaven, no man could endure to carry for his intolerable stink. Here, therefore, being plagued, he began to leave off his great pride, and to come to the knowledge of himself by the scourge of God, his pain increasing every moment. And when he himself could not abide his own smell, he said these words, It is meet to be subject unto God, and that a man that is mortal should not proudly think of himself if he were God. 170 B.C. Antiochus IV took all the gold and silver from the temple and sacrificed a pig on the altar. In 169 he conquered Cyprus and large parts of Egypt, but in 168 Roman pressure forced him to stop, and he sent Apollonius with an army of 22,000 to collect tribute from Jerusalem, and they plundered and burnt the city. In 167 BC, Antiochus forbade sacrifices, circumcision, and other Jewish laws. They were forced to worship idols and eat pork or be killed, and he placed an idol of Zeus on the altar, and their scrolls were burned and their owners killed. 165 BC, Antiochus captured Artaxias, the capital of Armenia. Then he died in 164 of a painful stinky bowel disease. His extreme persecution of the Jews produced many martyrs who refused to forsake Almighty God. Daniel 11:34 and 35. Now when they shall fall, they shall be helped with a little help, but many shall join to them with flatteries, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge, and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. Then Mattathias spake with a loud voice, Though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the commandments. We will not obey the words of the king, nor depart from our religion in the slightest degree. As he finished saying these words, a certain Jew came forward in the sight of all to offer sacrifice on the altar in Modin, according to the king's order. When Mattathias saw him, he was filled with zeal, his heart was moved, and his just fury was aroused. He sprang forward and killed him upon the altar. At the same time he also killed the messenger of the king who was forcing them to sacrifice, and he tore down the altar. Then Mattathias went through the city shouting, Let everyone who is zealous for the law and who stands by the covenant follow me. Thereupon he fled to the mountains with his sons, leaving behind in the city all their possessions. Mattathias organized open resistance, and with his son and successor Judas defeated large and well-equipped armies of Antiochus. After the death of their father, Judas gained many victories against the armies of Antiochus. The prophet Micah takes up where Daniel left off after Antiochus IV, and foretells the rulers of Judah until Christ is born in Bethlehem. Micah 5:2-7. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of you shall he come forth to me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. Therefore will he give them up until the time that she which travails has brought forth. Then the remnant of his brothers shall return to the children of Israel, and he shall stand and feed in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall abide, for now shall he be great to the ends of the earth, and this man shall be the peace. When the Assyrian shall come into our land, and when he shall tread in our palaces, then shall we raise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men, and they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod and the entrances thereof. Thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian, when he comes into our land, and when he treads within our borders. And the remnant of Jacob shall be in the middle of many people as a dew from the Lord, as the showers on the grass, that tarries not for man, nor waits for the sons of men. Eleazar died in the battle of Beth-Zechariah, valiantly attacking and killing an elephant from underneath, but then was crushed to death. Salome Alexandra was married to Aristobulus and then to Alexander Jannaeus. Her sons Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II appealed to Rome, and Rome restored Hyrcanus to the throne. So it's actually 7 men, one of whom rules twice, and 1 woman, who are the principal men. Alexander Jannaeus reconquered much of ancient Israel which had existed under King David's reign, but he had made the Pharisees his enemies, which he sought to correct in his will and directions to his wife. Alexandra abided by his wishes and allowed the Pharisees to direct matters of state. The Maccabees defeated the troops of Antiochus IV and reasserted the sovereignty of Judea. Their descendants, the Hasmoneans, continued to rule over Judea until Jesus was born, though under imperial Rome. We just covered 330 years of prophesied history.